we're going to do something different today. Boxes. No, how many people in here make boxes? Make boxes. How many people make boxes? I mean, okay. Or what do you want to call it? What do you call that? Yeah. A lidded box. Okay. How many make lidded boxes? Okay. So there's a deal going on with some people say the tenon should be on the bottom, and some say the tenon should be on the top. How many put the tenon on the bottom? Always? Or sometimes? Okay. So you got to have a mortise and a tenon, right? So how many put the tenon on the top? Yeah. Okay. So there's this kind of like electricity. You got, you know, you got the AC, you got DC, because AC is tenon on the top, DC is tenon on the bottom, and then you got AC/DC that, you know, go back either way. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh no, yeah, the lid in the body. Well, I was curious because, you know, there's some really well-known box makers out there that a lot of times it's my way is the only way, tenons on the top, or the other guy says tenon on the bottom. And so I thought I would poll the audience and check. So before we get started, though, I need to ask that I know there's a guy named Murphy in the crowd, and I want him out of here. Because Murphy's laws are not good for anybody. So please, Murphy, leave quickly. I don't want the trouble. Okay, so this is a little different. I learned that I did this technique at Mark Adams School of Dentistry. School of Dentistry. That's right. It's a loss. I'm not nervous at all. So any things I say that's wrong, correct me, please. I know Nick will. He'll let me know. So Mark Adams School of Woodworking. And the guy that was supposed to teach a class is from Canada, and he's really well-known, and I can't remember his name, not very well-known in my circle, but so the instructor ended up being one of the fellows that works at the school, and he had these boxes that he had developed, and I thought they were quite interesting. And he wasn't teaching that technique, but he was teaching some other different techniques. But he had this one box, and I said, well, you know, let me try making that. And he didn't tell me how, but I kind of had to try to figure out exactly how he went through the process and everything. So as one of my boxes that I made it to school, which is this one here, was his design. So, and I had not seen one like that. Okay, you can see that fairly well. So I thought, well, that's kind of different. It's kind of cool. So I've made a few, and then someone saw them and said, hey, how about doing it for a demo? So I'm going to do that. So the boss asked. So basically, we're going to start with a blank. You can make it as big or short or tall as you want. I have it on here. And what I've been doing for my practice is kind of mark those off in thirds. Now you have to think about this for a minute. I was trying to get a good golden ratio, you know, a third on the top and like a 2/3 bottom. As you can see, that's kind of half and half. That's not really the golden ratio. It looks pretty nice. This one is almost bigger on the top than the bottom, so I didn't do well on that one. This one's bigger on the top too. This one got closer, but it's half it. No, it's too big on the top. So I've had a problem with my ratios. Although the boxes, you know, they look okay. So, and part of the reason is because when you do your top, your tenon is going to be on the top. How is this? Okay. The tenon is on the top, and it's recessed. So when you do the bottom, though, you're going to be cutting this part down, and there goes your ratio. Should be there, but it's up inside. So you have to extend the bottom more, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Most of the ones I've made end up being kind of even. So once you get your blank round, I mark it off into kind of thirds. Then you're going to cut it off so that you start off with the top piece. So here's a third, and I'm giving you some space here for when I take it off, cut it off the tenon. Doesn't have to be that big. So just round it up, get it nice and smooth. I didn't want to spend all that time doing that here. And separate it, and then you're ready to go for the lid. Couple things that you want to consider when you start. Since the tenon is on the lid, you want to make the tenon big enough, if you can, that it's going to fit in the bottom pane. Where are we overhead? So look at your size of wood that you have that you're going to turn, the size of the box that you're going to be finishing. This is about 3 1/4 or something like that. In size of tenon, as big as you want the hole for the bottom, so that if you want a big wide hole here, then your tenon is going to be bigger on the lid. If you want a little teeny hole that you want to hollow it out and make it look like a hollow form, then your tenon is going to be real small on the top. So plan ahead. And the other thing that I like to do is plan ahead so that when I have this tenon and I want to finish the top, that I can chuck it on the inside. Now you can chuck it one of two ways. You can chuck it, how are we on the lid here? You can put the chuck on the outside, or if you cut this with parallel lines, both inside and outside, then you have a choice of putting it inside and expanding into it. Depending on what size chucks you have, how you want to do that. So plan ahead a little bit on how big a hole you want in the bottom, the size of this tenon is going to be inside and outside, and if you're going to use that to rechuck to finish the lid. So that's some consideration that you want to do before you get started. All right, so I have a cheat sheet here because I know I'll forget something. So what I've done is I've marked this already. I'm figuring on a tenon 1 3/4. So I've already marked it, so I don't want to make it any smaller or bigger than that, because I think my chucks will work. So once we get to that point, then we're going to go ahead and start cutting the tenon and go from there. So, now this lathe I haven't used, so it could be a pain. Cutting the tenon, you can use your parting tool, and but you'll have to be a little bit careful. Jeez. Because if you're using a real wide parting tool, as you start to recess this in here, and you're going to want to go in at least 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch deep for the tenon. Are you overhead? No? Okay. Where's my ruler? So your depth is going to be somewhere at the bottom of the tenon, somewhere 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. so that it sits down inside the jar. So if you're using a wide parting tool like this to cut your recess in there, and you have a small circle that you're cutting, then you may have a problem of hitting on the sides. So someone said I have another parting tool a little smaller and another one that's a little wider. So just depends on what you're used to, what you may want to use. The other thing that we'll do to compensate for that somewhat is we will start to shape the angle from the edge down into the inside. That gives us a little more room for the parting tool without having to worry about it binding. So you want to try to make this wall fairly straight up and down. If anything, have it so that it's sloping outward, not undercut. The same thing with the one on the inside. If you're going to chuck it, this should be fairly straight so that your jaws will hang on to it if you're going to chuck inside. But I found that if this wall's a little bit undercut, when you go to fit it into the bottom, it'll fit tight right at the very top, but then once it seats in, it may be a little loose. But you'll see that in some of these boxes. I've done a good job on that. So some of them get loose. Okay, so let's start off and see if we can't do some cutting. I missed my lights. So I'm going to start off with this guy. I'm going to see if he's at the right height. So here I've made my lines on here, and this is the outside of the tenon. So I'm counting on about 1 3/4 inches. Now this is pecan, and it's hard as a rock, and it's probably a mistake doing this for a demo. We'll find out as we're going along. My tools are sharp. I just sharpened them all today before. But you wouldn't think I see smoke, so maybe it's just sawdust. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask. So now I can see right now when I'm getting this at this depth, I'm starting to see space on the sides of these two things. So this is probably shouldn't be used. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my angle from the outside. That gives me a little more space on the inside then to do deepen that. So this angle on here that I'm cutting right now, that can be either straight or a little bit concave, and that's fine. And you're going to want to leave about 1/8 of an inch flat on this outside edge for the two where the two boxes come together. They can seat real well there. Okay, so I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to deepen that a little more. Sure doesn't sound like a sharp instrument, does it? I'll go back to the smaller one. This pretty hard wood. So you want to have, you know, maybe 1/4 inch width at the bottom of this to seat into the bottom for the bottom to seat into it. Okay. This is at 13 right now. I could probably go higher. Okay, so I'm approximately a ½ inch. I'm going to go a little bit more. You know, it's always that little bit more that gets you in trouble. Now, once I get this to the depth I want, I'm going to trim the outside edge. Switch again. This helps me get a kind of a flatter inside it. It's not two pieces, so. Okay, so once I get that done, then I'm going to finish trimming this outside, tapering it down to the bottom. Since it's in grain, if I start at the inside and work out, then I'll get a smoother finish. That sounds horrible. Okay, so now I'm going to start on the inside and cut it back. And so I have this wonderful scraper. So this is a great scraper. This is a D-Way tool, and it's just it's really nice. You can put a burr on it if you sharpen it upside down, and it cuts really good. So I'm just going to kind of hollow this a little bit. You can hollow this as much as you want, all the way up your lid, as long as you don't perforate. So you can make it fancy if you want. But we're going to trim this back shorter, so it's recessed. You can see this cuts pretty kind of nice pieces off. So and I'm going to make this the walls inside here fairly straight, just in case I need to use it for chucking, for reversing it. Okay.
So you got that about a ½ inch recessed inside?
Yes. All right. So from what I see on here, it's almost 5/8. So what I've done is I've cut this back short, so it's about1/4 inch below the surface. And the length on that is it's about 3/8 of an inch. That's probably a little too long for the tenon. I'll shorten that up a little bit more, so the tenon is not too long. And then I'm going to make that wall fairly straight. That cuts so much nicer inside. So I got a fairly straight wall now, so we can chuck inside if we want. And I'm going to round that just a little more, a little deeper. I mean, you can make this real fancy inside if you want to use some of the tools that make the swirls and spirals and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, so that's pretty good. Their tenon's good. Our wall's pretty good. We got a nice 1/8 of an inch or so outside. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to shape the outside. Now, you know, this is personal preference. You can make it whatever you want. As you can see, almost all of these that I've done are domed, so to speak. You can make it straight up and down. We could just part this off straight away and call it a box lid or whatever. So most of them I've done are domed, so I think I'll go ahead and do it that way. But so we'll start off in. I'm gonna say this is about where I want to start cutting. At the length of my lid. I don't know why I'm getting that vibration. Anybody have an idea? It's not giving me there. Now it's cutting real nice. So anybody have a reason why it wasn't before? So I'm going to take it that much down, and then we'll use this guy. That must have about right. I thought Murphy left. Oh, I did. Took, yeah. Well, let's see. Is there enough? I think there's enough tenon. We'll find out. It all goes backwards. Yeah. Okay. Now, actually, I marked this already where the tenon number 1 and 2 are on the thing, so I can put it back exactly where it came from. Yeah. I mean, you know, every time I've had a piece come off the lathe, it's never gone that way. It's always coming back this way. You know. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. I think the tool rest turned on me and slid over and hit the wood. Yeah. I gotta get it set for the height. We need a machinist to fix this tool rest. I know. Yeah, you're right. I know a machinist. He's a pretty nice guy most of the time. That he could probably fix this tool rest, but you know, it would probably take most of the money out of our thing instead of just buying a whole new one. All right, let's see if this is gonna. Well, it looks pretty good. All right, let's try this again. This is why I get nervous about doing demos. Been there, done that. I can feel a little vibration, so it's not perfectly round as it was when I started. So, you know, this is where, when you're learning to turn, it pays to spend a lot of time spindle turning and learn the beads and coves and all that kind of stuff, because Ernie Conover teaches a really good basic class, and he talks about practicing beads and coves, and he said once you've done over 500 or so, then you might be fairly comfortable. I'm not sure I've reached 100 yet, so I don't want that one. If you don't put it back where you think it should be, then all right. Now, if I remember my instructions sheet over here, right, before I part this off, then we're going to sand this a little bit. All right, this is looking pretty good. The nice thing about doing this here is that I don't have all the lights, so I can't see all the imperfections. So I'm going to use a 180. This thing really looks pretty decent on the inside here. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a 180. I know that, the technique of sanding is something we could spend hours of teaching each other, but all right, so I'm gonna, on the outside it's a little bit rougher. A few lines. That's right. Nick, you told me your last name was Bertram. Are you sure it's not Murphy? Oh. All right. So I thought I saw some tool marks there, which we can fix too once we reverse mount it. Yeah, okay, that's good. Now the worst thing about turning end grain like this is the sandpaper marks are always harder to get rid of because the grain's going parallel. So it takes some of this sort of thing here doing to get those lines out. It's just different. No, the fit isn't any different really. It's just a different design. Probably the biggest change in the design is this part when you have your lid, and it's sort of a hollow form in a manner of speaking. But yeah, it's just a kind of a different way of doing it. So, yeah, it's still a box. It's got a lid and a base, so. Okay. Here. So once I get this sanded, and the advantage of doing it, and I'm sanding it all the way through, is that now I can put a finish on it on the inside. So I'm using Doctor's Woodshop Micro Crystal Wax Bowl Finish. Important part. Cover the lathe bed. If you're doing CA or finishes, why make a mess? Yeah, but you don't need to have a mess on your lathe from gook, all kinds of gooky stuff. That's a technical term, so it's important to use technical terms in this kind of crowd, because otherwise they give you grief. So this is you're right. Any excuse at all to give you grief. So you got to squeeze it down in there to get it covered. Put a little on here, a couple drops. The only thing I like about it keeps coming out, you know. All right, so here we go. Crank it up now. Get some heat on it. Now I'm not going to put 3 or 4 coats on. I'm only doing this one coat, and I'm not sure how much this builds. As far as if you want a real shiny finish, then you'd probably have to put quite a few coats on. But most of the ones that you see over here just have 1 or 2 coats. Okay. Good, that feels good. It's warm, so it should be done. Okay, so now we're going to part this off. Yeah. Okay, turn that up. Boy, this there's a lot of dots on this thing, so it looks like I'm going 1.264 speed at 1200 maybe. Anyhow. Now sometimes when they're this wide, I don't like to go all the way through, but it's gonna. That's right. Where's my key? All right. This we'll put out in the raffle. All right, let's see how my calculations were, if I'm going to be able to use this to hold this. Ooh, bite. Okay. Now I'm not going to crank it real hard. It might leave a little mark inside, but it's not something that many people are going to ever see.
Close it in on the
Yes, it's on the outside. Okay, so yeah, yep. Now, I brought another chuck with a smaller guy too. So if I needed to go inside and spread out, then I could. But that was one of the problems I had on a couple of these, was finding the right chuck jaws to go with the tenon to be able to finish it. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to use this wonderful tool just to contour this a little bit. This gives a fairly nice finish when you put the burr on the top side. So I can feel it's not perfectly okay. I think that's pretty good. Okay. I like the shape, that's pretty good. and a little sand, and then we'll Doctor's Wood Shop microcrystalline wax bowl finish, and they make a bolt turner's finish also, or a pin turner's finish, and I'm not sure there are any different. Yeah. Yeah. So you know when you got a friction finish, most of the time it's shellac. Oh, okay. They sell that at Woodcraft. It's $19.99. But the difference between this and just regular shellac, it's got the microcrystalline wax in it. And the other ones that are, you know, the bowl finishes, that friction polish, most of it used to be all shellac. It just sets up fast, and it sets up good because you're heating it. So, so I see I have I don't know, yeah, I got a little bit of a line there, but moving on. Okay, so the lid's done. Any questions about the lid? All right, I'll pass this around so you can see. So you can see that really kind of is pretty smooth inside without a whole lot of sanding or anything. So it's pretty halfway decent. That piece of wood is nice. All right, so we're back to the original piece. Again, when you start off, you put tenons on both ends and mark your lines, and then we're ready to rechuck this one. I'll have to be a lot more cognizant. This is a little heavier piece of wood. Yeah, a little longer, so. All right. So on this one, we're going to shape the outside a little bit. So because we're going to hollow it, then we have an idea where the walls will be. So I'm going to roll this like the others that I've done. Roll the bottom so it's kind of pleased, and so you end up with something that's similar to all these others that I've done. So that will do. And so when we do that, we can bring the tailstock up and have a little support so it doesn't fly off and hit my wife. Oh, I've paid up the insurance. Her life insurance is up to date, and I just expanded it a lot. Yeah. Oh, no. Well, and the dog's covered also. I got a $1 million policy on the dog because she's very trained, and so the dog and me, the two of us are trained. You know, don't ask about the other. Okay, so I already drawn lines on here. You all saw me draw the lines earlier when we first started, because there's a line right here and there's a line right here. That's for cutting it off of. But this is about the size I'm going to do the bottom, so I'm hoping that it's kind of like the right size. So what we're going to start with is and then look as round as the other one. We're going to part into this. So when you get out of round like this is a little bit, then you're going to put the top on and probably make the adjustment a little bit with the top on it. So I want to go in far enough so that I can round it to about where I think it'll be flat. for the bottom is going to be, I'm going to angle this just a little bit. So that's good. Now, let me see about, I'm going to re-round this thing. Hope it doesn't take too much. There we go. That feels pretty good now. All right. Same thing as before. We got it locked down now. This is locked down. This locked down. Now, don't anybody walk out with that top, because, yeah. Well, actually, if you do walk off with it, I'll just take this one and fit it. And see, it's about close to, well, it's a little smaller. I got one other one I can use. So I did that on this one. I had this leftover top of the piece here, but what does that look like to you? And that looks like a piece of junk, doesn't it? It's, 2x4, 2x8 or something. So this one had a crack in it, and it did. It blew up. So you can pass that around. I wanted to make sure you could understand what I was saying. Otherwise, it wouldn't do any good to do this demo, because if you don't understand anything, then whatever. So, okay. So that's what the bottom is going to look like. This is a hunter tool, and I love this for hollowing. All right, so we know that we want to make an 1 3/4 hole in there, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to cheat, but I'm not going to cheat bad. So I have a drill bit that is 1.5 inches to be on the safe side. So part of my experience in learning this is that if I drilled an 1 3/4 hole in here, which is the size of, is this my box? Oh, they all look the same. Can't tell. All right, so this looks like it's exactly 1 3/4 inches. My experience is that when I if I drill 1 3/4 hole in here, it's perfect. However, once I'm done hollowing the inside and sanding, all of a sudden it's bigger. So I've learned, hopefully, to make it smaller until you've finished hollowing, and do a little sanding. Then you can fit the lid into the thing. So that's where we stand. Turn the speed down, turn it on. Let me back this off a minute. Ooh, what is loose? The bed is tight. Yeah, it'll get squared away. It's too slow. So this just makes Halloween a whole bunch easier. All right. Backwards, okay. Let's see how far I want to go in here. Okay. Two. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let's back this up. This is kind of like watching sanding. Yeah. Think I'm too deep, you think? You think so? I do have some funnels at home. No, that's not even close. You know, you're making me worry about this, you know? You know, so that's less than 2 inches, and I need to go a little more than 2 inches. You know, if I go that far, 2 1/4. So, you can never go too deep. There's always something to use it for. I think that's far enough. Here we go. Okay. Now the fun begins. Okay. So, double check the depth. It's 2 inches deep. That comes to about here. So that's fine. You want a little weight in the bottom. I gotta rearrange this to make sure I'm level going in here. Okay. All right. This is where I miss being at home. So I have some lights that I can shine in there and see what I'm doing. And see if this is going to be in my way. No. Well, I think I'll be out here most of the time. Okay, so I want to go in and I'm going to feel where and try to look to see where the dimple is from the spur on the drill bit. And I'm going to start off on the bottom just to level that a little bit. And then I'll start coming up the side. So I have a line that doesn't show very well on the outside here. Already, this is the 1 3/4 line. And another line, so I know where to go from there. All right, so here we go. So I love this Hunter tool. This is a negative rake scraper. It seems to work pretty well. Murphy's Law. So if I can try to feel where that hole is, I just want to scrape a little out of that hole till I get the hole out just a bit. Okay. Then these aren't so deep, you can put your finger in there and kind of feel where you are. And look, I gotta get my air gun out. Now make sure you always put your hand over here when you do this, otherwise it just blows up in your face. I mean, I saw some guy do that and that's what happened. I've never done that. So, I still got a little dimple. So, all right, I still have a little dimple. I'm gonna take a little more out at the bottom. Then I don't mess too much, or try not to, inside. Okay, so I have lines on here, so I have a center line, so I know when I'm in here straight, and I'm going to can it a little bit to an edge so it doesn't grab too much. Even then it does, so you have to be careful. So I'm going to start on coming out now to the edge and come up the side. I want the bottom to be kind of rounded. You can go in and out with this cutter. I'm sure you can all see exactly what I'm doing. Now, if I were a little smarter, I'd probably have one of those laser things that could tell me how thick it is, you know. Yeah. That just makes a bigger mess. This at least is contained, you know, locally. I do have a suction advice thing at home, but I still use a straw to blow it out because I found that the air gun, you stick it in there, I mean, it's just cloud of smoke and it's all over the place. So, okay, so I'm good there. It's only about that thick on the side, so we should take another 1/16 off or so, something like that. So I'm going to start up here on the top a little bit, but by the same token, I got to remember I'm going to be beveling this here, so I don't want to come too straight out to do that. So. This is really hard wood. Now, I used to do most of my hollering with the tools that are the not carbide tip, but just a little finger that sticks out on the end of the tool. And the nice thing about that, especially when they're at an angle, when you need to get in tight underneath here, is that if you do get a catch and the thing sticking out of your tool on the side, is that it'll trip down. and you won't get a huge catch. This doesn't trip down, so you could end up with a big catch if you're not careful. Yeah. Go till I see daylight, you know. Oh. It catches. Yeah. I told you, Murphy. If I could identify him, kick his butt. That'd be like going like this. Yeah. Well, let's see where. Keep that turned a little sideways. All right. I tell you, it's amazing how you forget things that quickly. All right. Probably could go more, but let's stop there for now. The other, this thing is also very good for scraping part of it, smoothing it, and getting some of the ripples. Although this is really not too bad. It's pretty smooth in there. I'm very proud of myself. Sometimes there's obstacles that get in your way. Okay, it's good. Okay, so before we finish all that inside, then we're going to turn and make our angle here. So what we need to do, is this the lid? Hope so. All right, so next step is to measure the lid, the depth you have, and I see it's like almost 5/8. So I'm going to mark here, almost 5/8. If it's not deep enough, you can always make it deeper. So. And then what we're going to do is, I know I have a couple marks on here on where the 3/4 should be, and I want to leave a flat on it also to marry up. Tighten it. Okay, so I'm going to take this skew and make a couple depth cuts with it. This just doesn't seem like it's going as fast as what I'm used to. Just getting rid of some of the waste. Okay, I'm going to turn it on in to get a nice cut right at the line. And I'm going to use this guy here to trim it down. Now you can make this, you can decorate this if you want. This one, I put a little decoration on it, grooves and things. So there's some areas that you can fancy it up if you so desire. All right, so now comes the important part, fitting the tenon. So I have a line on there, and what I'm going to do is mess this thing up again. And the shoulder is usually not a problem. It's mainly the tenon here and your stop right here that is going to give you the fit. Yeah, the shoulder could come into play. If this was straight and that one was straight, then they may hit and they may keep you from seating. If this is concave and that's convex, then it may fit, or you can make them both concave. But the main thing is the tenon. And oh, here it is. So I have a line on there that should be close to where, but never go too close. And I'm going to taper this to start with. So the big problem is okay, so it's not going anywhere yet. I hope that's the right lid. So I'm going to try to sneak up on it. And you don't need a super tight fit. I'm angling it so if it starts to go in and it's loose, then I still have some I can straighten out. But I got to get it there first. And it's like watching grass grow. Back and forth, back and forth. And now, the advantage to having this finish on here is that when you rub it on here, it will leave a mark. Is that visible? Can you shoot it from this end? No, from this side? Can you see this dark mark? Right on just on the inside of that edge. So what that is some of the finish on here that's it's kind of rubbing. You know, so that tells me that I have it partially there. Okay, back to, now I'm going to straighten that up a little bit. Now, if I have this tapered instead of straight up and down, if it's tapered out, then this will have to be tapered also for it to seat all the way. But that's just, this is the very tedious part to not make it too loose. It takes a lot of what I don't have. Patience sometimes. I can see it rubbing. I want it to seat a little more though before I cut too much away. There we go. It's seating in further now. Now I wish it would show on here, but it doesn't. But it does show, give me some marks on here. And it's going in further. So we'll continue. You know, some of the box makers love to make the box fit, you know, and then get that piston effect. But, you know, or people are trying to get into their boxes and, you know, and they're really stuck. Which one of these? Oh, they're all loose, aren't they? If you have it, well, this one is pretty tight, but it's dried out. Anyway. It's hard to get them apart unless you got a handle, but I don't think you want to make a handle on them. All right. Sorry, this always takes a little time. What time is it anyway? How long have I been up here? Huh? 8:07. Okay. I'm doing fairly good because at home it's been taking me 2 hours to do these. So. Even with a blow up, you know.
Randy, how do you know you're not hitting that outside?
Now this length is adjustable, so if it's not seated all the way, I can always, make that longer. It's getting tighter, isn't it? This is always the hardest part for me. I've made them it's too easy to make them too loose. Doesn't take much. That last cut, just as I said. So, well, listen. I mean, you can't beat that. Okay. So let's see. It's good. I think I need to make that just a little wider and clean it up just a little bit. And that's always a danger. You know how that goes. Yeah. Okay. Actually, size-wise, it's pretty good. Not perfect. So what I can do is bring the tailstock up and put a little pad here and even that up a little bit and redo it. So sanding, it's really fairly good on the inside like this one was. The hardest part to get super smooth is right inside this part right here. And actually that feels pretty good. The whole thing feels pretty good inside. And it's harder to sand, but you take a pad and you have a piece that you can hold on to, and sanding is never fun, but try to get it so you can get all the way down to the very bottom too. It must be on too fast. I'll take one of these. But it's, yeah, it is. It's easier if you have a little longer piece, and just get some inside done. You don't want to mess too much with that part there, and that's, and then do a little bit here. This is 180. Uh-oh, I better quit sanding. So, yeah. Okay. So I'll quit there. So the only thing left to do is finish the inside. Go ahead and do it now before you part it. That way you got it there. Fit this. If you need to do a little sanding with the two together, just bring up a tailstock, hold it on. It doesn't fit tight enough, to stay on by itself. See why I brought this? So what I can do is, and I've done this today, is put a bead on the inside here, and under real slow speed, and it's a medium CA, and I just kind of let it get in there and do it, and then let it get hard, and then trim it so you can get a tighter fit. But I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's a secret, process. So I don't want to hold it, it's 8 o'clock already? Yeah. So, and that's how we do it.
So how do you part it off?
Part it off, reverse. All right, so let's see. Got my other chuck here. I don't want to lose that in the sawdust. See if this chuck will go inside. No, it will not. So, but this guy will. Yeah, there you go. That's right. There you go. So that's why I brought this guy. And it's I guess one of these others that I was working on today, I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to figure out which jaw to go because I'd screwed it up and had to resize it, and one of those deals. Thank you.